George Anson was born on April 23, 1697 at Chuckborough Manor, Staffordshire. He was a son of William Anson and Isabella Carrier, and with influential ties, including a connection to the Earl of Macclesfield, he joined the Royal Navy in 1712 at age 15. He started his career on HMS Ruby during the War of Spanish Succession, and over the years Anson advanced through the ranks, participating in significant naval battles such as the Battle of Cape Passaro in 1718. By 1722, he was promoted to commander and gained popularity after effectively suppressing smuggling between Britain and Holland. His success earned him the rank of post captain in 1723. In 1739, as tensions escalated between Britain and the Spanish Empire in the Caribbean, George Anson was appointed to lead an ambitious expedition with a clear and dangerous objective: to sail from England to Manila and harass Spanish shipping and their imperial interests along the way. Britain wanted to weaken Spain's hold on its vast overseas empire, particularly in the Pacific and South America, in the hope of eventually replacing them as a dominant force in these regions. Anson's squadron, meticulously assembled for the journey, was composed of 6 warships: the Centurion of 60 guns, which served as his flagship, along with the 50-gun fourth-rate ships of the line Gloucester and Severn, the 40-gun fourth-rate Pearl, the sixth-rater Wager, and the sloop Trial. Additionally, the fleet included 2 store ships, the Anna and Industry, which were vital for carrying provisions and supplies to sustain the lengthy voyage. However, from the outset, the expedition was plagued by difficulties. Delays in departure meant that the squadron didn't leave England until late in 1740, which set them up for a perilous challenge: rounding Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America during one of the most dangerous times of the year. Cape Horn was notorious for its treacherous conditions, where the confluence of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans produced some of the world's most violent storms. By the time Anson's fleet reached these waters in March and April of 1741, the autumn storms were reaching their furious peak. The ferocity of the weather took a heavy toll on the squadron. 2 of the warships, the Pearl and Severn, struggled against the relentless gales and towering waves. They became separated from the rest, and unable to withstand the punishing conditions any longer, they decided to turn back to Brazil, with their crews depleted, exhausted, and morale shattered. Another vessel, the Wager, met an even worse fate. She was wrecked off the coast of Chile, leaving its crew stranded in hostile and unfamiliar territory. The further history of the stranded crew is a different story altogether, and I recommend you guys to look it up online. In any case, by June 1741, Anson's once formidable fleet had been reduced to just 3 surviving ships: HMS Gloucester, the sloop Trial, and the flagship Centurion. Despite these overwhelming challenges, Anson's resolve never wavered. The fleet's reduction did not deter him from his mission, and he continued to press on, navigating the surviving ships through hostile waters, with his sights set firmly on disrupting Spanish interests in the Pacific. First of all, he set course for the small Peruvian port of Paita, and in the absence of serious naval opposition from the Spanish, he decided to attack it. This success, however, did not make up for the general disappointment of the mission so far. Anson and his men had simply expected to have achieved much more by then. They continued their search for victory, wealth, and fame. The fleet's troubles were not over, however. After the relentless storms, Anson kept being beset by another well-known enemy: scurvy, a dreaded disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. Scurvy has always been the scourge of long sea voyages, leading to weakness, gum disease, and eventually death if untreated. The original crew of the Centurion, Gloucester and Trial, which had numbered 961 men, had now dwindled to just a mere 335, so 2/3 of the men had already died. The grim reality of the situation forced Anson to make a difficult decision. The remaining vessels were so battered, worn out and undermanned that they could no longer continue the voyage. He ordered all survivors to be concentrated onto the Centurion, his flagship, which now became the last hope of achieving anything. He reached Macau, China in November 1742. After wintering there, Anson set off on 29 April 1743 to hunt down the immensely valuable Manila galleon Nuestra Señora de Covadonga. He finally sighted the galleon in June 1743 while cruising through Philippine waters and launched an immediate attack. Despite the Spaniards' desperate attempts to escape, even throwing cargo overboard to lighten their ship, Anson seized the galleon's immense treasure of Spanish silver and other valuable goods, securing not only the financial success of the voyage, but also his personal wealth for life. This victory would not only make Anson a wealthy and celebrated figure upon his return to England, but would also provide the British with invaluable knowledge of the Pacific region, as the ship was filled with various maps of this ocean, a quarter of the world that up until then had remained fairly obscure to the British. In this painting of the action by the celebrated Samuel Scott, both the Centurion and Covadonga are depicted in starboard quarter view, with the Centurion to port of the Covadonga and the Spanish galleon with her massive hull and elaborately carved stern. The scene captures the intensity of the battle, with a heavy pall of gun smoke rising and drifting to the left. The coast of the island of Samar is faintly visible in the left background, grounding the scene in its historical context. The size of the Covadonga, however, was greatly exaggerated by the painter to create a more heroic David versus Goliath effect. In any case, Anson brought his prized galleon back to Macau, where he sold the ship, kept the treasure and set sail for England via the Cape of Good Hope. As he neared home, a thick fog allowed him to slip past the French fleet patrolling the Channel, and on June 15, 1744, he finally reached England. The capture of the galleon made Anson not only incredibly wealthy but also extremely popular. Despite his newfound influence, he initially refused the promotion to Rear Admiral of the Blue, furious that the Admiralty had rejected a captain's commission he had awarded to one of his officers. He nevertheless would go on to become one of the most celebrated British military leaders of the 18th century, rising to the rank of First Lord of the Admiralty and changing the Royal Navy forever with his famed reforms. But this is for another video. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Heart of Oak, and I hope to see you here again next time.